Welcome back to Elevation 44. It's your girl B. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back, family. So today we're doing something a little bit different for this Libra new moon. I'm a little crunched on time, and I wanted to make sure that this video or this message came up in enough time for those of you who are looking forward to this every month. So we're going to go ahead and do this podcast style. So you will not be seeing me on camera today. But I went ahead and, inserted some calming fall video that hopefully will be aesthetically pleasing and calming to you as you listen to this message, okay? So let's go ahead and get into this Libra new moon. So this new moon is happening on October 6th at 7:04 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you have to translate that to your local time zone, of course. And it will be happening at 14 degrees. Now, on this channel, we always, touch a little bit on the numerology, especially when it comes to the degrees in which these new and full moons happen. And 14, when you boil that down to a single number, it's the number 5. And number 5 is always synonymous with change, okay? And new moon is a time for setting intentions. It's a time for planting your seeds where the sun and the moon align together in one particular area so you can focus and set intentions in one specific area. So change and the new moon really go hand in hand together, especially with the energy that this Libra new moon is carrying. Now, Libra energy is all about balancing. Libra energy is recalibration. It's the scales. When you look at the symbol of Libra, it's the scales, right? And the scales represents balance. There's an equilibrium that needs to be present, not only in our environment, but in everything present. This whole universe, everything that is created through a balance. There's a balancing act that is established in order. And when things are out of balance, they need to come back into balance. And that's how you maintain order. So Libra season is very important because it is about that recalibration. It is about that balancing, okay? Libra energy really carries the energy forward of the justice, the fairness, the equality, because it is that balancing of the scales, right? So harmony, peace, okay? And not only just harmony and peace because of that balance, that delicate balance that we're talking about, it all goes back to that word balance, but this is not just in our environment or our surroundings. This is also in our relationships, the way that we relate to things around us, our environment, and the way that we relate to people, those one-on-one relationships. So Libra energy also is very relationship oriented or relationship focused, okay? This very much dives into partnerships, into romance, into collaboration, teamwork. It is literally that social energy that is starting to help us focus outside of self when, as we are coming into this place of self-awareness. Once we've gotten to a certain point in the journey, Libra then takes us into, okay, what is outside of self? And people are outside of self. Environment is outside of self. And so this is where we come into that. So Libra energy in totality has so many different layers to it. But again, if you just want to think of one word, balance. That is it, okay? There's a lot of energy present with this Libra new moon. This Libra moon is going to be conjuncting Mars, and this is an exact conjunction. And what an exact conjunction is that Mars and the sun and the moon are going to be aligned at 0 degrees. So this is very tight conjunction. They're all blending their energies together, okay? Now, the thing about Mars and Libra, it goes two ways, right? One of the ways this energy can go is very passive aggressive in terms of being indecisive just because it's very pleasing. It's about the consensus of the group, wants to make everyone happy, wants to see peace and harmony amongst the collective. And so sometimes what that means is taking a back seat, not voicing your concerns, your opinions, not making decisions, riding on the fence because you don't want to upset either side. You don't want to land on either side and upset the other group, or, so sometimes that's how this energy can come off, just trying to please everyone, okay? The other side of this energy, which is what this new moon is really capitalizing on, is this fighter spirit. It's this fighter energy. And fighting for what, right? It's fighting for injustice. It's fighting to bring a sense of justice forward. Fairness, equality, balance, okay? Back to those Libra keywords. So this conjunction, this tight conjunction that this new moon is making with Mars is kind of fueling this fighter energy. The reason why we say that this fighter spirit is or this fighter energy is the one that is in the forefront, not just because of this conjunction to Mars, but there is a grand trine, okay, happening, which is 3 or more planets that are working together harmoniously to push a certain cause forward. And this grand trine started on September 25th. So if you want to really dive deep into that, go back to the Libra season video and really listen to that. But the activation of that grand trine is now even more so present. So it started on September 25th, but this new moon, because of that conjunction with Mars, and Mars being one of the planets in that grand trine, and this grand trine is within air signs, okay? So the air signs are Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini, okay? So with these 3 air signs working together for this common cause to bring change forward, this is really progressing us towards finding solutions that help us build new foundations, that incorporate fairness and a sense of freedom. And not only just a sense of freedom, but the freedom for the protection more so of the individuality and the independence of the individual within the collective. So that even though this agenda is pushing the collective forward and creating a new foundation for the collective and progressing the collective, it is still very much focused on the individual voices, the individuality, the independence of the individual within that. And so that is very important to keep in mind because of everything that is going on. We can see how this stuff is really starting to ignite, right? And Mars is that planet or that energy that brings the energy. It really is energy. It is action. It is initiation. It is fight. It is leadership. It is everything action oriented. Mars can, lead the troops into battle, and Mars can pour gasoline on an already brewing fire and turn it into a big explosion. So Mars is really something that you always want to pay attention to when it's present because it just adds so much energy to the situation, okay? Now this whole balancing act between freedom versus control, independence versus interdependence is really the things that we're seeing come up here, okay? So the new moon and Mars will be opposite Chiron in Aries. Now, what does that mean? Aries energy is about individuality and independence because Aries, the ruler of Aries, is Mars, right? So those energies are very much the same thing. It's about that independence and individuality, okay? And with Chiron being in Aries, Chiron is opposite this moon, opposite Mars, and Chiron is our deepest wounds, okay? The things that we're working to heal in this lifetime. With those wounds collectively being in the sign of Aries, this is really about insecurities, wounds, traumas, and stuff coming up through our lack of what we feel is individuality and independence being honored, okay? So a lot of these things are going to be flared up during this time. Events are provoking and really poking at these collective traumas of oppression and control, or what feels like oppression and control, whether it be mental or physical. All right. Now, this whole thing about control really brings me to the next big thing that is happening at this time of the new moon, which is Pluto, right? If we really want to talk about two energies that can really set things up, Mars and Pluto are the two that you really want to look at. And Pluto is stationing direct on this day of the Libra new moon. Now, what does this mean? Pluto has been retrograde since April 27th. And the reason why we're focusing also on Pluto and this theme of control and this freedom versus control thing is because when a planet is stationing, it is literally getting ready to stop and turn its motion in the other direction. So since it was retrograding for several months, it was moving backward, where it was basically projecting the energy inward. All right. Instead of external, it was inward. It was a lot of inner reflection, a lot of inner themes around personal power and control. Now it's stationing, which means it's going to stop its motion, stand still, or appear to be standing still, and now turn to move forward in its outward progression and forward movement again. When a planet is stationing or standing still, the energies are more potent and more pronounced, okay? And Pluto is all about power and control. And Pluto has been in Capricorn and is still in Capricorn, right? So the power and control here, the destruction and the transformation has been happening. And we have been seeing this in our business, in our government, with our authority figures. This is where it's primarily being concentrated. Now, again, we go back to this thing when I'm talking about the collective, wound of having individuality and independence honored, and freedom honored, versus this control, what feels like control, right? So restructuring society, how we do things, this is what Pluto and Capricorn has been doing, just tearing it all down, but in the midst of that, there has also been a lockdown for more control in the situation, okay? It's Saturn in Aquarius, which is a part of that grand trine, is all about the fight between the old and the new structures wanting to come in, being torn down, but the old holding on for control for dear life. This new moon is critical in terms of this grand trine that is being activated, because we're going to see this, and plus the Aries full moon that is coming in 2 weeks, really start to set things in motion, especially as America approaches its Pluto return, its first Pluto return, right? On February 25th, 2022. So it's 2/20/22. This is happening in the second house, and this Pluto return in the second house is big because the second house is all about wealth. This is all about, material possessions, the things that you've acquired, and what that means in terms of this country, which is so young, when you really think about it, this country is not that old. It's going to be transforming the foundation of the country. So there is going to be a lot happening. There is a lot happening already in motion, but as we lead up to that date, we're going to see it become even more intense. And this is kind of I wouldn't say this is the turning point, but this is one of the critical points in that process, okay? So we'll have more on that later. I just kind of wanted you to think about that as we think about this Libra new moon. Now, the herbs and crystals, I'm going to go ahead and leave down in the description box for those of you who are looking to work with those in support of your work during this new moon. But let's go ahead and just talk about some of the rituals that I would recommend. And when I talk about rituals, it's really about setting intentions for the new moon, because this is the time where you plant your seeds, right? So the first thing that you would think about setting your intentions for would be relationships. And this could be calling in new relationships, whether that be romance or partnerships. This can also be a balancing or healing old relationships, which means codependency issues or maybe toxic relationships, getting rid of those. This is also a really good time to set some intentions on finding balance between your sense of independence and the sense of interdependence, because there's a balance of both that's needed. And this is also a great time to really think about what collaborative projects you want to initiate, giving and receiving support. So if you want to give, if you're in a position where you feel like you could be lending more support to others, or if you want to be calling in more support for yourself from others, right? This is also another good time because Libra is all things aesthetic, beauty, art, okay, decor. Those types of projects or those things, if you want to initiate any of those things, this would be a great time to set intentions around that. This can be a time where you set in some intentions to bring more harmony and peace into your own life, your own personal life, in whatever way that looks like for you. And then lastly, I would say this is a good time to think about your commitment to standing up for things that you believe are right. So justice, equality, fairness, and how you assert yourself and your voice, and making sure that things are always in a good sense of balance, right? Where you are doing good, where you're fighting the good fight. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're out there fighting, but we do that all in our own individual way. And just being able to identify that and being able to make a commitment to saying, I'm going to always do what's right. And that's really one of the most important ones, I would say. So that is all that I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this Libra new moon message and you were able to take something out of it. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please go on ahead and subscribe right now. Also, let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this style of a video, this podcast style, I'm calling it, even though it's not a podcast. And lastly, I would love to shout out my Libras. Libras, where are you at, okay? If you have Libra moon, Libra sun, Libra rising, hit me in the comments down below, or any of your Libra placements for that matter. And if you don't have Libra placements, go ahead and leave the house that Libra rules on your chart down below. And I will see you all for the Aries full moon. Enjoy this new moon and enjoy setting your intentions. Have a good one. Bye.